Have you ever just stood and looked at a giant skyscraper and thought, how in the world does something that massive get its power? I mean, it's not like there's a giant wall outlet somewhere to plug it into, right? Well, today we are diving deep into the incredible and mostly hidden electrical systems that make our entire modern world tick. And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why can't we? To really get it, you have to understand that the electricity flowing through the massive power grid is a completely different beast from the power that charges your phone. It all comes down to one thing: scale. And that's the heart of the problem right there. The grid is pushing power at insane voltages, like over 22,000 volts. Trying to run your laptop on that is, well, it's like trying to fill a shot glass with a fire hose. It's way too much power all at once. You need something in the middle to tame it, to control that incredible flow. And that's where the power substation comes in. Think of it as the essential middleman. It's this amazing collection of gear that stands between the raw, untamed power of the grid and the building that needs to use it. Its whole job is to take that dangerously high voltage and step it down into something safe and manageable for everything from the lights in the ceiling to the most powerful machinery on a factory floor. This diagram here really shows the basic idea perfectly. Now, don't get hung up on all the technical labels. Just follow the path with me. You've got the main power line coming in from the left. It flows through that central box, that's our substation, and then it branches out to the right, feeding all the different circuits for things like lighting and motors. See? It's a simple journey from one giant source to lots of smaller destinations. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to dig into that high voltage problem. Then we'll go inside the substation itself. We'll compare the two main types you'll find out there, meet the key players, the components that make it all work. And finally, we'll trace the entire journey of electricity, all the way from the grid right to your gadget. Okay, so let's start with the big question. Why does the grid even use such crazy high voltages? Why not just send out the power at a voltage we can use in our homes? Well, the answer is all about efficiency. And this chart really tells the whole story. See, sending huge amounts of power over long distances at low voltage is a bit like trying to push a river through a garden hose. You lose a ton of energy to friction, which in electricity means heat. So to get power where it needs to go efficiently, you have to crank up the voltage. And as you can see, the more power a place needs, the higher that voltage has to be. Once you cross 100 kilowatts, boom, you're already in the 22,900 volt range. So we need that high voltage to get the power to our doorstep without wasting it. But the moment it arrives, it's way too powerful for us to actually use. We need, for lack of a better term, an electrical gearbox to downshift it. And that is exactly what the substation system is. But here's what's really interesting. Not all buildings are the same. So, of course, their substations aren't all the same either. The design is completely customized based on how much power the building actually needs. It is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. And the big dividing line is right at 1,000 kilovolt amps, or kVA. If your building needs more juice than that, you get what's called a formal system, which is a lot more complex and robust. If you're at or below that number, a leaner, more streamlined, simplified system is all you need. And you really don't have to be an electrical engineer to see the difference. Just look at these two diagrams. On the left, that formal system is a complex web of components, right? You can see it's built for serious business, with tons of redundancy. Now, look to the right. The simplified system is way more direct and linear. It's a much more compact and economical way to get the job done for smaller facilities. So let's just quickly break that down. Formal systems, they're for the big guys, over 1,000 kVA. Think large factories. Their main switch is a heavy-duty beast called a load break switch, or LBS. Simplified systems, they're for smaller commercial buildings, the more compact, and their key player is an automatic section switch, or ASS. Now remember those switch names, because we're about to meet them right now. So let's meet the individual components inside these substations. I like to think of them as the guardians of the system, where each one has a very specific job to make sure power gets delivered safely and reliably. First up, the LBS, the load break switch. This is the big kahuna, the main on-off switch for those big formal systems. It's tough enough to be opened even while electricity is flowing through it. And you see those big tube-looking things attached? Those are power fuses. If just one of them blows because of an overload, a little mechanism kicks in and opens all three switches at once, which prevents a catastrophic failure downstream. Now for the simplified systems, we have the ASS, the automatic section switch. This thing is kind of like a smart switch. If a fault happens inside your building, the ASS talks to the power company's equipment out on the street. It automatically disconnects your building so your problem doesn't cause a blackout for the entire neighborhood. It's all about keeping local problems, well, local. Next up, we have the ultimate sacrificial hero, the power fuse. This component has one job, and one job only, to destroy itself during a massive short circuit to save the really expensive equipment it's protecting. And on this slide, you can see a perfect before and after. Look at the image on the right. See that little red pin that's popped out? That's the visual signal that this fuse has done its job and laid down its life for the greater good of the system. But, not all fuses are the same. A current-limiting fuse is like a sprinter. It reacts incredibly fast to cut off a fault current before it can even build to its most destructive peak. A non-current-limiting fuse, on the other hand, is more like a marathon runner. It can handle minor overloads for a bit without blumming, which makes it perfect for protecting individual pieces of equipment that might have small, temporary power surges. Okay, so we've protected the system from problems on the inside, but what about threats from the outside? That is the job of the lightning arrestor. It's basically the system's shield. When a massive voltage spike from something like a lightning strike hits the power line, this device is the first line of defense. And this cutaway is so cool, it shows you exactly how it works. When a dangerously high voltage hits it, the electricity is powerful enough to jump across a series of small gaps inside. See those horizontal lines in the middle? That jump creates an emergency escape route for the surge, giving it a safe path straight into the ground so it never even touches the expensive equipment it's designed to protect. And finally, we get to the absolute heart of the entire system, the transformer. After all the switching and all the protecting, this is the component that does the real heavy lifting. It takes that super high voltage electricity and, using the incredible principle of electromagnetic induction, it steps it down to a lower, safer, and usable voltage for the building. It really is the gearbox for electricity. Okay, so we've met all the individual guardians of the system. Now let's put it all together and see how they work as a team. We're going to follow a little pulse of electricity on its complete journey from that high voltage grid line all the way to the circuits that power a building. All right, follow along with me on the diagram here. High voltage power comes in from the top left. The very first thing it meets is the LBS, our main switch. Right after that, it passes the lightning arrestor, which is standing guard against any outside surges. Next, it flows through some metering equipment that's basically the electric meter for the entire building. From there, it passes through more safety circuit breakers before it finally reaches the heart, the transformers. They step that voltage way, way down and then send that safe, usable power out the bottom to the distribution panels that light up the whole building. And, that entire journey we just traced happens in less than the blink of an eye. These substation systems, usually tucked away in some forgotten electrical room or a fenced-off yard, they really are the unsung heroes of our modern infrastructure. They just work silently 24/7, taming unimaginable amounts of power so that we can live the way we do. So the next time you flip a light switch or charge your phone, you'll know a little more about the incredible, complex journey that power took just to get to you. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible systems are working all around us, all the time, powering our world in ways we never even see? Thanks for joining me.